Hello students, welcome back. So this is in continuation with our previous videos where we were speaking about performance management and performance appraisal, which is a part of performance management. So in our last video, we were studying the process which is involved in performance appraisal. So there are totally 4 steps which are involved in performance appraisal. Out of these 4 steps, we have already studied about the first step, defining the job, and the second step, which involves deciding who will do the appraisal. Now moving on to the third step here, conducting the appraisal through various evaluation techniques. In other words, we are trying to understand what are the evaluation techniques or the methods involved in performance appraisal. So there are a total of 5 methods by which performance appraisal can be carried out. The first one is something called as a graphic rating scale. So what happens in a graphic rating scale is you tend to list out several traits. Those traits can be quality, reliability, productivity, availability. So some of these traits you first list out. Now on each of these traits, you try to assign a certain performance value for that trait. For example, in terms of quality trait, if you see, is the person, are they unsatisfactory in terms of quality? Is the person average in terms of quality? Is the person outstanding in terms of quality? So this is the way in which you need to assess each of these traits by assigning a certain performance value. So here is an example of how a graphic rating scale would look like. So there are certain performance values which are given to us here. Uh, Outstanding, O for outstanding, B very good, G good, improvement needed, unsatisfactory, and not rated. Not rated means it is not applicable for the job. So you don't have to rate that trait for the job. So if you have a look at it over here, on the ground of quality, there are around 5 performance values which are given. How you feel the employee is in terms of quality, accordingly you assign a performance value for that employee. On the grounds of productivity, again, you have certain performance value which you can assign for the employee depending upon how productive or unproductive they are. If you feel that the employee is very good in terms of quality, you can tick mark or you can circle outstanding. If you feel that the employee is needing a little improvement in the area of quality, you have to tick mark this I, improvement needed. So on different traits, we can assign performance values and rate the employee. Now, again, you will notice that regarding a trait, how one rater will look at a trait is different from how another rater will look at a trait. If I'm seeing the point of view of quality, one person may view quality as something where the employee is giving a good quality product irrespective of the level of time. Another rater will see that quality means the employee has to give a good quality product but within a specified time. So there are different perspectives on how you understand the meaning of the term quality. So because of this, it would make it easier in case you define each trait by certain words over here. So quality means, how do you define quality is the accuracy, thoroughness and acceptability of work performed. So here it's very clear. Quality means what you have to look out for the employee. When I'm speaking about productivity is the quantity and the efficiency of work produced in a specified period of time. How much products is the employee able to produce within a certain time frame? An employee who's able to come up with 50 units of a product within 1 week is better than an employee who's able to come up with only 20 units of a product with 1 week. So this is a very quantitative way in which you can evaluate an employee. So from this, we understand that a graphic rating scale can be done on generic traits like quality, productivity, reliability, etc. Graphic rating scale can also be done for a specific job duty. How well is the employee performing a specific job duty? So this is one example of a graphic rating scale related to a specific job duty. So here is a situation where you're trying to rate an administrative secretary on her job duty of maintaining departmental personal records. So in order to understand what is her job duty exactly, a little description is given regarding her job duty. So it involves using spreadsheets and other computerized forms and ensuring all recorded personal information is up to date, including name, address, contact information, etc. So from this, we notice that in case this administrative secretary is maintaining all the records well, you're able to retrieve information whenever required. Everything is in a systematic way. You can give a rating of 4 for the administrative secretary, which means exceeds all job requirements. In case the administrative secretary has been losing files, has not been documenting things properly, whenever you need information, you are not able to retrieve that information because it's not documented well. What does this mean? It means that they have not done their job well. So you will have to tick fails to meet job requirements. So in this way, a graphic rating scale can either be generic traits, rating generic traits like quality, productivity, etc., or it can be relating to doing a specific job duty like how it is shown over here in this slide. Now moving on to the next evaluation technique, you have something called as alternate ranking method. In an alternate ranking method, it just involves ranking the employees from best to worst. So here is a sample of an alternative rating scale. You need to take, so this is done for several traits again. You will have trait of quality on which you are ranking employees from best to worst. You will have a trait of availability, that is how frequent is the employee to office, how many leaves does the employee take, is the employee regular to office. On this trait, you can again rate another employee. So if I can take you people also as an example, out of let us say the 60 of you, we will notice that probably 40 of you are extremely regular to class. Okay, but in terms of marks, probably 40 of you are above average. Now, let us say 20 of you may not be regular to class, but in terms of marks, that 20 of you might be outstanding. So that on different traits, you notice that employees vary in terms of their rating. So in terms of quality, one employee, Mr. Vikram probably will be coming under rank 1 for quality. But the same Mr. Vikram in terms of regularity to office, availability in the office may probably rank 17. So this is the reason why for every trait you need to rank the employee and not take just one individual trait. So this will give you a more detailed view of how different employees are performing on different criteria here. Some employees might be having very good communication skills. So on the trait of on the trait of communication, probably let us say Mr. Aditya might be rating 1. But however, that same Mr. Aditya, if I have to rate them in terms of productivity, that is how much sales is Aditya able to sell to the customers in a span of 1 week, you probably notice that they are coming somewhere about 9. So different traits, different employees perform well. So you will have to identify which employee is performing well in what trait, and accordingly, which employee is lacking what trait, and accordingly train them. Okay, and it can also be used as a summative purpose. Try to rank employees on the different traits and add up everything. Then you will understand which employee is standing out and which employee is lagging behind. An employee will be rated 1 for all traits like quality, productivity, quality, reliability, etc. They will obviously be the best suited candidate for the next promotion or will get a very good hike in salary. Another employee, you notice that in terms of productivity, quality, reliability, on all those things, they are ranking 20. Probably they are the next ones on the cards to be sent out of the company. So this is the way in which you can understand in terms of rating of employees. So how is this exactly done? Now, let us say there are a group of employees from Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C, Mr. D till Mr. Z. So there are these many group of employees over here. These many number of employees are there. Now, how an alternate ranking scale has to be done is you put a list of all the employees whom you have to rate. Out of that list, see who is the best. Among Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C, Mr. D, Mr. E, etc., you probably notice that Mr. A is the best in terms of a certain trait. So you will put Mr. A's name over here. Okay, you'll put A's name over here. Now, A has got rated. So you leave A aside. Now from Mr. B, Mr. C, Mr. C till Mr. Z, you check. See which employee is rated the worst in terms of that particular trait. You notice that Mr. Z is worst. So here you will put Mr. Z. So you have finished rating A, you have finished rating Z, put both of them aside. Now you take Mr. B, Mr. C, Mr. D, etc. till Mr. Y. Now you rate among these employees, you have to rate the second best and the second worst. So you notice that Mr. B is the second best over here. You rate Mr. B, Mr. Y is the second worst over here. So in this way, you will be rating the employees from best to worst. This is how actually the alternate ranking scale is done. Have a look at the third technique here. You have something called as a paired comparison method. In a paired comparison method, for every trait, you are comparing one employee with another employee who is also doing the same job, is also in the same level. So you have to make a list of all possible pairs of employees while you're trying to do the rating. So this is one example of how paired comparison is done. If I'm rating an employee for the trait of quality of work, this horizontal axis talks about the employee who is rated. I want to give a rating to Art. I want to give a rating to Maria, Chuck, Diane, and Jones. When I'm giving the rating to each of these employees, I will give the rating comparing them with another employee. So I'm comparing Art with Art. This will not be applicable. Comparing Art with Maria. Art is compared with Maria. According to whether Art is better than Maria or worse than Maria, I will be putting a plus or a minus sign. If Art is better than Maria, I will be putting a plus sign. If Art is worse than Maria, I will be putting a minus sign. So in this grid, you are noticing a minus sign. When Art compared to Maria is minus, means Art is worse than Maria in trait of quality of work. Art is worse than Chuck in the trait of quality of work. Art is better than Diane in terms of quality of work, and Art is better than Joe's in terms of quality of work. Now, in the same way, you compare Maria. Maria with Art, she is better. Maria with Chuck, she is better. Maria with Diane, she is better. And Maria with Joe's, she is better. In the same way, it's done for Chuck, Diane, and Joe's. Finally, you will add all the plus signs. That employee who's getting a plus, who's getting maximum number of plus, is the best employee in that particular group. So Maria is the best in this group in terms of quality of work among Art, Maria, Chuck, Diane, and Joe's. Maria is the best. However, when you see for creativity, you're noticing that Art is getting the maximum plus signs over here, due to which in terms of creativity, Art is the best over here. Right? So this is the way in which you can make a comparison between employees on various traits. Have a look at the next interesting evaluation technique, something called as forced distribution method. In a forced distribution method, you have to, the rater has to compulsorily place a certain percentage of employees within a particular performance category. So these are the performance categories: high performers, high average performers, low average performers, and low performers. So there are several performance categories which are given over here. Compulsorily, out of 100 employees who are there working in your company, according to forced distribution method, out of those 100 employees, compulsorily 15 employees have to be put in high performance. Compulsorily 15 employees have to be put under the low performers. It is compulsory. So from this, what we understand is not all employees can get to this top here. It depends upon how you are again compared to another employee. You may be in a group, you may be the best in that group, because of which you will come under the top 15%. You're extremely talented, but you are in a group where others are better than you. If this is the case, although you are personally, on a personal level, although you are talented, you will be put under the low 15% if you're not better compared to the other members in the group. Others are better than you means you will be put under the low 15%. You may be an average person. You may not be that great. But however, in that group, you're better compared to the others. In this case, you will again make it to the top 15%. Okay, so this is one of the most strictest form of performance appraisal technique, because it is a compulsion to put some people under certain categories and put some people under other categories. Now, this criteria, this performance categories which I have given you, and this percentage of allocation is not uniform for all the companies. It can vary from company to company. See, if I have to give you one example over here, General Electric, if I have to use, say, they rate their employees in 3 categories. First category is top performers. The second category is the middle performers, and the third category is the low performers. Top performers, they put 20 out of 100 people, 20%. I'm giving an example. If there are 100 employees, 20 of those employees will come to the top. In other words, 20% of the employees come to the top. If there are 100 employees, 10% of the employees will be posted in the bottom. The remaining 70 employees, 70% of the employees will be in the middle. So the categories here are top performers, 20% of the employees compulsorily put them in top performance. Middle performance, 70% of the employees put them in middle performance. And 10% of the employees, you put them in the low performance category, compulsorily. Okay, so this is unfortunately a little hard way in which performance appraisal is done. Because of this, what happens is every group team member, every employee constantly has to keep updating themselves. It's a rat race. Each employee has to keep competing against the other employee. So this negative side of it is it can lead to certain politics here and there, where one employee is trying to downplay another employee. And another negative side of it is the rater, the person who is rating the others, okay, they can get accused of managerial bias. They can get accused of bias in terms of ratings. A person who has been rated in the lowest 10% can always post a grievance saying that, no, I have been unfairly treated. So the rater should be prepared to answer all this. Now, yes, and some more severe ways in which this rating can take a turn is, see, take an example of Sun Microsystems here. Okay, so what happens relating to Sun Microsystems is they will do this performance rating. Those employees who are coming under the bottom 10%, an employee who's coming under the bottom 10% will be given 3 months chance to improve themselves. At the end of 3 months, a rating will be again made for those employees. Again, if they continue to come under the bottom 10%, they will be given the door. They will be shown the door. They will be asked to leave the company. Okay. But for leaving the company, they will be provided a severance pay. Severance pay is if you are terminating an employee, you will have to pay them some amount. That is called as a severance pay. The employee has another choice. They have a choice of saying that, no, please don't terminate my services. I will stay with the company and I will improve myself. So now the company gives them a chance to stay and improve. Again, after 3 months, if the employee does not perform well, they will be asked to leave and no severance pay will be given. So what is the choice over here? Rating is done. You're under the bottom 10%. Company asks you to leave. Sorry, you're under the bottom 10%. You will be given 3 months chance to improve yourself. If you don't improve yourself in the 3 months, company gives you a choice. You leave the company and I will give you severance pay. Another choice is stay with the company and improve yourself. But if the employee chooses to stay with the company and improve themselves, again in 3 months when performance appraisal is conducted and they're again in the bottom 10%, this time they will be asked to leave without a severance pay. This is the way in which Sun Microsystems implements its forced distribution method in terms of terminating the employees. So this is where a lot of competition can tend to crop up between employees. Accusations of bias in the ratings can come up. So to avoid this accusation, what raters can do is they can appoint a review committee. That review committee will check whether the rating is really bad or not. Another approach is these raters should be very well trained in order to do the rating and as well as give answers to frustrated employees who may question them as to why they have got a low rating. Okay, so all these things can be covered under forced distribution method. So here is some of the explanations what are given here. Most strict form of appraisal, heavy competition for ratings, and protection from accusation of biases by way of a review committee and by way of training the raters. Finally, you have another performance appraisal technique, which is known as critical incident method. So what happens in a critical incident method over here is the supervisor has to constantly keep tracking the performance of their employees. Make a note of all the positive examples of the employees' behavior and the negative examples of the employees' behavior. So this positive and negative examples of the employee behavior is called as critical incidents. Okay, so what happens is for a duration of 6 months, this supervisor will keep observing the employee's behavior, make a record of all the positive and the negative behaviors of the employees in terms of their work, and every 6 months a discussion will be carried out between the supervisor and between the employee. The purpose of this discussion is to suggest any improvements for the employee. Where are they going wrong? If at all they are going wrong. If they are doing their work correctly, give them a pat and tell them that yes, you are doing your work correctly. Keep motivating them. All this is the purpose of critical incident method. Now, another unique feature of this critical incident method is your rating of the employee will be based on how they have been on the past 6 months. Many times, some mistake that raters do is they rate employee based on their most recent behavior and recent performance. But a critical incident technique will avoid this problem and rate the employee on how they have been performing in the past 6 months and not consider only the recent performance behavior. So, and one more advantage is, see, they should always monitor the subordinates. So this makes sure that the supervisor always keeps a track on what the subordinates are performing. This is one example of a critical incident carried out for a critical incident appraisal carried out for an assistant plant manager. So here you notice that the duties and the targets and the critical incidents are here. So if you notice the critical incident, the first point, if you see, he has done something positive. So he has come up with a new production scheduling system, has decreased the late orders by 10% and has increased machinery utilization and plant by 20% last month. Till last month, the same machinery was producing less number of products, but now he has done things in such a way that the same machinery is producing more units of products. So here is an example of extremely positive contribution. The second example here, second critical incident, what was noted from the assistant plant manager is he has let inventory storage costs rise by 15% and over ordered part A and part B by 20% and has not ordered sufficient quantities of part C. So this is one example of a negative incident pertaining to work relating to the assistant plant manager. So the plant manager, who is his superior, will look at all these things and at the end of 6 months will give him advice and will give him appreciation for what good things and what bad things he has done. But the disadvantage of a critical incident method is nothing is numerically quantified. Unlike the previous ratings, graphic rating scale, alternate ranking method and all quantifies the rating. But here points are not given, quantification is not given. You're just making a notes of what good things and what bad things the person has done. So this may not be very good in terms of determining whether you have to increase their pay, whether you can give them a hike in their salary, whether you can give them a promotion. Critical incident method might not be very useful. But on the other hand, yes, of course, you notice that if you're noticing critical incidents compared to other employees, one employee, this assistant plant manager, has more positive contribution to work compared to other plant managers in other divisions, this plant manager might probably, this assistant plant manager might probably be given a promotion in the future. So this is way in which you can do performance appraisal techniques. So with this, we have completed this third part of performance appraisal process. In the next video, we shall be seeing the fourth part, which is the appraisal interview. Thank you.